What it do, golf fans? Welcome back to the Turn to Ours Golf Podcast. This is Liam. Alongside me is Jack. Jack, we had a pretty great week in golf, all things considered. Definitely exciting based on those last 30 minutes of real life time. Arnold Palmer Invitational, Russell Henley with the win. What are your thoughts on the week?
My thoughts on the week were that was the first golf event of the year where I sat down for hours on a Sunday and was roped in for continuous segments of time.
Yeah.
First event of the entire year. Every single event has either been, no offense to Jacob Bridgerman, Bridgerman winning by 4 shots. You've had, no offense to Michael Kim, I follow him on Twitter and he's hilarious. Michael Kim contending every event. No offense to them. There's been no suspense this year. And this is the first event we had a Collin Morikawa resurgence. Amazing ball strike. He did choke at the end. It was a very exciting week, and I think that's what the tour needed, especially going into another caliber event. Obviously, like the Players, the 5th major. But, I mean, you have to be happy for Henley. I thought his wife's reaction was the lamest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. She just went, oh, okay, and then high-fived her kid, and then they moved on. That was terrible. Even Collin Morikawa thanked Henley's wife more than he did. It was just weird, but it was awesome. I loved it.
No, yeah, it was super fun. Russell on 16, he chipped in for eagle, which if he doesn't chip in there, I mean, is it 20 yards off the green probably at that point? He was blowing that thing off the other end of the green if that thing doesn't find the bottom of the cup. So it goes from 9 under to 11 under, proceeds to take the lead. Morikawa basically can't make it up, and then Henley goes on to basically par out and win the tournament. So super interesting as far as that being the way it kind of all ended up working out. I mean, is there anybody else in the top 5 that stood out? Obviously, you mentioned, I mean, for a different reason, but Michael Kim did finish T4, 4th place. Corey Connors finished in 3rd place. Just to highlight, by the way, I'm going to go over this. We had Jack and I had 2 head-to-heads last week. One of them was Christian Bezuidenhout over Potgieter.
And to cut you off, and I know this is not in any way, Liam and I are such good friends that it's okay. To you guys, it's going to feel like I'm being a tool. I said I'd bet my entire life on this. And luckily, I helped him out with DFS, but.
Yeah, I mean, it worked out because I switched to Nick Taylor and DraftKings, which ended up, saving me a little bit of money, which was good. So obviously Bez won there. But then our second head-to-head was Corey Connors versus Michael Kim, which again, Jack won that one by 1 placement point, but they finished 3rd and 4th.
Not even one shot.
Yeah, if I'm losing and the guy I'm taking, no offense, is probably the underdog in that matchup, I think between Michael Kim and Corey Connors, especially in terms of name value, I had more of the dog in that fight.
Yeah, it was probably minus 120 to plus 115, right around there.
Yeah. I'll even take, plus 110, or mine was scratch. Yours was minus 120, whatever it is. So for them to finish 3rd and 4th, hopefully you took both of them. But outside of that, anybody else stand out to you in terms of good or bad finishes?
Yeah, I really want to talk about Collin Morikawa. Collin Morikawa has been playing some really good golf, not great golf, and he put it together for 4 rounds. Now, granted, he should have capitalized a lot more coming down the stretch, and he knows that. But the ball striking numbers that Collin Morikawa put on, I was listening to him talk about his range sessions and the work he was doing. And it's weird to say because there's 2 caveats to being really good at golf, and this sounds so self-absorbed for me to put myself in that category, and I'm not really trying to.
Yeah.
But there's a difference in trying things and making things work on a golf course and making things work on a range. Now, for a lot of amateurs, and I'm saying amateur in the grand scheme, I'm an amateur at the end of the day, is I'm going out and I'm hitting my 60, I'm hitting my gap, I'm hitting my 8, and I'm just progressing through the bag. These guys, on the other hand, are practicing something 10,000 times, 5-yard cut, 5-yard high, 5-yard low, all these things. And Collin Morikawa was really descriptive on what he was working on, and it really came together. It really looked like old Collin Morikawa, which was awesome to see. And I think that if this trend continues, he may be a top 3 pick for the Masters. Quote me now. It's a bold prediction. I mean, he's going to be top 10 regardless, but top 3 comparatively He is looking spectacular. But I really want to talk about, number one, Keegan Bradley.
Yep.
Awesome performance, came out and really birdied a really difficult course. Shane Lowry has continued to play some amazing quiet golf, the same as Sepp Straka. Aaron Rai once again. Tommy Fleetwood has been right up there. Ludwig Aubert was right up there. This was an event that there were a lot of big names inside the top 20, 25, and that's what the game needed. It's really, really good.
Yeah, it worked out quite well. I mean, again, you mentioned a lot of big guys, Ludwig Aubert, Shane Lowry. I think the good part is that we were all over a lot of those guys. I'm going to give myself a small pat. Again, it's potentially a premature pat on the back. I highlighted it at Century that I think this was going to be a big breakout, like back when he won the Open and won a couple of majors early on, Collin Morikawa year. Again, I just kind of had that, I don't know, you can call it a feeling. But again, that was something that I was very high on for Morikawa. So I'm going to immediately go into some notable guys who missed the cut last week. Again, it was kind of a smaller field. So we had Minwoo Lee, Tom Kim, Max Homa, Sahith Theegala, Cam Young, Akshay Bhatia, Victor Hovland, and Thomas Dietrich. Those were just some of the main names I saw on there. There were other ones like Taylor Pendrith and them as well. And then some best low-priced plays that were kind of, good all over. We were high on Nick Taylor, who didn't crush it, but he finished T34, and he was as cheap as he was.
That's crushing it.
What?
That's crushing it.
I mean, there was 70-something guys in the field, so he's like half. Depending on, yeah, I know, but like somebody out there is going to be like, well, he only finished top half, but like he was also like
he was 6,700 on DraftKings.
I know he was like the 5th, 6th, or 7th cheapest guy in the field. All right, well, good. Then I'm going to take credit on that one. Yeah, Nick Taylor, T34.
Aaron fight off that one.
Well, I liked him too. I was just deciding between him and Potgieter. Let's be clear on that. We both liked him. Aaron Rai is another name we liked. He finished T11. Jack was all over Christian Bezuidenhout, who finished T19. And then I was probably higher on him, but Michael Kim, who finished 4th, was also fairly low priced. Again, he was in the 7K range. He finished top 5. I'm going to take that as a low priced option. Some misses. Me specifically, I was not as high on Collin Morikawa. I said, and I quote, "I will avoid him this week and live with myself as he will likely pop off and finish top 10. Turns out I was right. All he did was pop off, gain almost 6 strokes on approach last week. He gained 12.5 strokes tee to green, and he still lost to stroke putting. So turns out even when you lose a stroke putting, you can still contend in a tournament if you gain 12.5 strokes tee to green and almost 6 strokes on approach. So Colin's big one. I mean, you could say I missed on Aldrich Potgieter, but he was like in the 6K range. So I guess that's a miss of mine. But outside of that, no other really big misses. So with that, let's get into DraftKings and FanDuel. Also, we didn't really discuss Puerto Rico.
Rightfully so.
Well, yeah, that's true. All right, that's fair. All right, Puerto Rico is Puerto Rico. Done. Next. On to DraftKings and FanDuel pricing. How'd your DraftKings look?
My DraftKings was actually really good, although I did lose to you. My worst guy was Brian Harmon at 40th, who was relatively cheap. But outside of that, I had 3rd place, 9th, 19th, 11th, 22, and 31. So I feel really good about my DraftKings, and I placed really well. It was surprising how low Russell Henley and Collin Morikawa were owned. Thank gosh. Yeah. But when I saw that, I was like, oh, geez, I didn't have either of those guys. I thought I was just going to get killed. No, I was fine.
Yeah, you kind of highlighted it. I did really well on DraftKings. I had 4 guys in the top 15. I had Michael Kim 4th, Shane Lowry 7th, Tommy Fleetwood T11, Rory, who was T15, and then I had Nick Taylor, who was T31, and then Ben Griffin, I think, shot 6 over on Sunday and finished T45. But still, all 6 guys made the cut, which I feel like is more than most people. So nice little DraftKings week for me.
Yeah, my FanDuel was literally a carbon copy, and I did just about as good on FanDuel, except the lower the contest entry that I did, the better I did, which was it's usually the opposite. And a lot of the more high ticket entries that I had, I did worse. I got money in all of them, which is spectacular because I don't really do DFS like you do.
Yeah.
But it was fine. I loved it.
Yeah, it was funny. I had those exact same top 4 guys that all finished 4th through 15th. But then I had Aldrich Potgieter and Harris English, who both missed the cut. Didn't matter. I still won in double ups. I just didn't win in single entries. So turns out you just need 4 guys that are going to play really good golf in that week.
And I'll say for anybody that's newer to golf gambling, DFS specifically, I would start with double ups. It's a top like 49%. I think it's top 50, but you get like 49, 48% of the money. It's like 50 people, top 25 win. If you put $10 in, you get like $10.80 back out of your profit. So it's a good way to start getting into DFS. So when we talk about double ups, if you don't know what that is where I'd recommend going if you're not the best at DFS. I'm not a huge DFS guy for golf. I like the bet scene more. So DFS is really like, I like double ups, but I also put myself in single entries because I'm a degenerate. But
yeah, I think double ups are really easy to understand because it's just basically like you're getting into a contest. If you're in the top half, you're going to win. Some would argue that it's easier to win in double ups. I agree. You just kind of need to know how to play them. I think if you're playing in a double up entry versus playing in a single entry tournament, you probably want to do different styles of players. Maybe a Victor Hovland or a Cam Young is a better choice in a single entry, whereas Ludwig or more consistent option is probably better in a double up. So keep that in mind as you kind of go through and play those. With that, Jack, let's get over into bets. How did your bets do last week?
Numbers wise, if you look at the sheet, I went 1 for 4, but my numbers were right there. It was so annoying. Like I had Ludwig top 20, he finished like 21st. I had Cantlay top 20, finished like 23rd. I had Harmon top 30. I think he finished 33rd or something like that. And then I had Bez top 40, and he did really well. So once again, common theme, now down 2.5 units on the week, still up money on the year at 0.63 units, which I feel like I'm drowning because at this time last year I was up like 44 units. Yeah. We'll get there. I don't know what's going on. It's just a weird year.
I mean, you're still floating around 0, which is more than most people can say. It's just a very interesting year for you because last year can't lay a top 20 for you would have hit every time. You would have done it. And for whatever reason this year, it just seems to not want to. It just goes the other way. It just doesn't want to seem to fall in your favor. I don't know why.
I don't know.
So, all right. For my bets, I had 2 wins, 3 losses. It happens. I'm down 1.26 units on the week. My losses were Potgieter over Bezuidenhout, Ludwig Aubert over Colin Morikawa, which I think Jack and I both commented felt like a lock last week based on how Colin Morikawa was previously playing. And then I said, yes, there was going to be a hole-in-one. It's tough. My wins were Michael Kim over Tom Kim at -110, and then Rory top 20 in round 1 at -120. So with losing 1.26 units, I am now up 14.59 units on the year. So even my losses are not catastrophic, which is great. That's always the goal because you're not going to win every week, but as long as your losses are small, that's the goal.
Yeah.
Before we get into winners and wildcards, shout out to Carl Phillips who won Puerto Rico. I guess I didn't really say that when I discussed it earlier because I'm looking at it now and I was like, oh yeah, we took winners here, but we didn't really discuss who the winner was. So Australian Carl Phillips won on Korn Ferry Tour a few months back, qualified for the PGA Tour through the Korn Ferry Tour Championship, and then now won the Puerto Rico Open. Beyond that, I'm sure we will continue to learn about him more and more. How'd your winners pick do?
So close. I had Corey Connors, who coming into Sunday, obviously I think he was 3rd going into Sunday.
Yeah.
The way he played Friday and Saturday, I thought I had it in the bag. I really did. And then watching the tournament, he was right there for 15 holes. I think he just made pars. Colin Morikawa, Russell Henley continued to Russell Henley, like you talked about, eagle and then a bogey. Colin Morikawa couldn't capitalize. Corey Connors just sinks 2 or 3 of those putts that didn't get to the hole. We're looking at a playoff, and a guy that was 50-1. I feel pretty good about a third place. Obviously, you guys know I bet all my winners to the top 5 as well because winners are stupid. If that's how you gamble, I'm telling you right now, you're dumb. No offense, but I'm still taking top 5 on a 50-1. It paid me out pretty dang good. So that was nice. Otherwise, I had Ludwig, who was like 21st, Bez, who was up there, and then Harmon, who was like 32nd, 33rd, something to that effect. But Puerto Rico, Tyler Duncan did finish 26 off 130-1. So I was pretty happy with that.
Yeah, you had a couple good picks for the Puerto Rico, and then again, Connor's almost locked in for you too. For my winners, I had Rory, who finished T15. I had Tommy Fleetwood, who finished T11, and then I had Ben Griffin, who again finished T45. I think he shot 6 or 7 over on Sunday. So nobody really too crazy, too fancy, but he had 2 top 15s. And then for Puerto Rico, I had Thor Bjornsson and Badley, who both missed the cut. Not my best look, but it's to Puerto Rico, so let's be honest. I hope we didn't spend too much money betting on that. As far as wild cards go, how'd your wild card do, Jack?
Honestly, it did awful. I had Ludwig to get the win without Scotty and Rory. Ludwig, once again, this is like the 2nd or 3rd week in a row where he has that random. 4 of his last 5 weeks, he has a 74 or worse round. So how we talked about, I can't remember who we were talking about.
Probably Cantlay.
Might have been Cantlay, where it's 3 great rounds and then a blow up. And if he can mitigate, now again, he's like 23, but if he can mitigate that in his career, he's going to win a major in the next 3 years.
Yeah. No, I get that. For mine, it was Adam Scott over Jason Day, Minwoo Lee, and Cam Davis. What a cluster. I think Cam Davis was 5 under on Thursday and then shot 8 over, 9 over on Friday, missed the cut. Minwoo Lee shot like 4 over both days, missed the cut. And then Jason Day shot 6 over on Thursday, 4 under on Friday, and then proceeded to finish, I think, top 15 in the golf tournament. So that was a loss because somehow everybody else just decided they were going to go all different directions on that. So tough one. I'm now 8 wins, 11 losses on wild cards. So not great, not awful. Hopefully I can get it back towards about even. That'd be the dream. So sweet. All right, with that, off the API and onto the players.
Yeah.
All right. Jack's got some history with the players. That was 2020, right?
Yeah, I was on the way to the course when they shut it down for COVID. I was in the Uber.
There you go. So Jack does have some history here, but we're going to the players. It's at TPC Sawgrass. We are still in the Florida swing. This is a par 72 totaling 7,250 yards. Sawgrass is honestly one of the best courses all year in terms of total tee to green play. There's only 7 courses that are more correlated when it comes to strokes gained off the tee and approach. There are only 7 courses that are more correlated when it comes to strokes gained off the tee. There are only 13 more courses correlated when it comes to strokes gained on approach. So overall, it's really going to be a ball striking, tee to green approach off the tee paradise. Just keep in mind of the 14 holes in which golfers can take driver, the other ones are par 3s. 11 of them will reward accuracy over distance. So staying in the short grass will be key this week for golfers to try and score lower. One other thing to note, looking back at previous winners here, almost none of them win here because of the flat stick. Since 2011, winners here average 0.89 strokes gained putting per round. That is the 8th lowest of any event on the PGA Tour. Some of the other ones include like the Masters, which has a shorter field, Hero, smaller field, Tour Championship, smaller field. The Honda is actually one of them as well. That one's a bigger field. But there's a few others that stand out. That means that the winners here really do just rely on ball striking to succeed. There are obviously exceptions to this rule if you look back at previous winners. When Cam Smith won here a few years back, I think he putted the lights out that week. He's an exception to the rule. Webb Simpson, I want to say won this, 10, 15 years ago now? Don't quote me on that, or maybe sooner or further. But he was another guy who won it heavily with the flat stick. But keep in mind that majority of the time it is won off of ball striking and really tee to green play. So because of that stat, I'm going to look probably less on putting significantly when we go throughout DraftKings pricing. If there's a determining tie factor, I might use it into account, but keep that in mind as we go through. Oh, another one's like the RBC. That's another course that doesn't rely heavily on putting. That's what I'm thinking of. So, yeah, I mean, with that, Jack, that's all I have on my end. Are we going to go through the DraftKings pricing?
Let's go ahead and do it. I'm ready.
All right, sweet. So we're just going to loop together all of these guys down to 10K. Is that probably the best way to do it?
You're the boss.
Sweet. Scotty Scheffler at 12,800, all the way down to Patrick Cantlay at 10,000. Who you like?
Well, I want to first start off with some volatility. So, not saying this is going to come as a shock, and I don't want everybody to click pause on their Spotify or their YouTube right away. Scotty Scheffler scares me this week. And yes, he's going for a three-peat. And he has been playing, in terms of Scotty Scheffler realm, very weird. Very, very weird. Now, he still finished 11th, and he's been playing really good. But I have said it for like 5 weeks in a row now. The decisions he's making on course have not been good. He's been making some very elementary mistakes. And even though he has won in back-to-back years, think about this, 1-1, his career finishing placement here is still over 40. He has a 55 and a miscut here in 4 tries. So not only that, we've seen Scotty Scheffler with the driver be kind of erratic. Number one, he's putting himself in these bad spots. You're talking about a course that, although it may not be super water heavy, it is heavily guarded. When Scotty Scheffler is on the driver, I have no doubt that he's going to be in contention on Sunday here. It's just a fact. There's not me saying that. But this year has been very weird, and I think he's trying to, instead of target things, he's trying to avoid a lot of things and kind of worry those compound mistakes. So I'm a little worried for him, especially being number one. Xander Schauffele as well. Xander Schauffele coming into the year was a guy I thought I was going to go Players Champion 2025, mark it in, bring it to the Masters. I'm afraid that he's rushing himself back from his injury to get a lot of FedEx Cup points in these elevated events. I'm very worrisome of him. And as weird as it is to say, Rory McIlroy, even though he's playing some incredible golf, he also doesn't have a good stretch of a career here at Sawgrass, even though he won with the most gangster gold shoes I've ever seen on a golf course. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go ahead and Google it. Every golfer in the world was trying to buy those for like 3 months straight. Rory McIlroy, in his last 6 tries, has 3 miscuts. So it does worry me. But in terms of who I like, Collin Morikawa, and this is total recency bias, even though he also has a trash history here, which it's kind of weird. If you really think about it, the best guy here in the field that's played at least twice, finishing placement-wise, is Christian Bezuidenhout, which is just random. Collin Morikawa ball striking-wise was as good as I've seen it since kind of what you talked about with his major spread. So I love him. Ludwig Aubert is another guy that I think is going to be extremely owned in the higher end DFS spread because of how good he is, how much of the mold he fits into it. But I think a lot of casual fans are going to see that he blew up and shot like 74, and they're going to avoid him, which is nice. And then obviously you have JT, who dominates these big events, even though he's missed a cut last year and 60th the year before. We're kind of seeing a resurgence out of him, so I love that. And if Patrick Cantlay can somehow stretch 4 rounds together, he's always going to finish top 20. So even though he has a trash history too, it's just wild.
Yeah, it's a really, really interesting range with all these guys up here above 10K. You'll notice actually the price point gets down into the 5Ks range specifically just for this. But I'll highlight some of the same names. I mean, Scotty Scheffler, he's been playing kind of off recently. If you look at his last 24 rounds, he's lost a half a stroke per round on approach compared to the previous 24 rounds before that. So I hope that makes sense. So if you look at his 48 previous rounds, the last 24, are a half stroke worse than the 24 before then. So he's been playing worse significantly. He's also lost nearly 2/3 of his stroke per round when it comes to tee to green in those same metrics. So he's been getting worse tee to green. The other thing to note, he also lost 5.5 strokes putting last week at the API, and he only gained a half a stroke on approach all week. So his approach play is getting worse. His putting might not necessarily matter as much here. So it's just something to keep an eye on. Bear in mind that all of that I just said means that he's probably going to finish like 15th as opposed to win the tournament this week. He's still going to be a great option. I totally get it if you want to put him in your lineups. Just that he's $1,300 more expensive, and I think you have just as much of a high upside with some of the other guys in this range. There's Colin Morikawa, where he's coming off of a strong tee to green play this week. He's a viable play here. His history isn't great, and he's lost with the putter here in all 4 starts. He's also only got the one top 40 finish here, and he's lost on approach 2 of his 4 times. It's not the best history. It's not the best at this course, but if you're looking at recent form, I think Colin is a viable option to get to. You have Rory, who only gained 1 strokes gained off the tee last week at Bay Hill, which is his worst off the tee performance on the PGA Tour since the beginning of 2024.
That's the craziest stat I've heard all month, that he's gained a shot and it's still his worst performance. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. He gained 1 stroke off the tee last week at Bay Hill. That's his worst performance in over a calendar year. He actually switched out his woods on Sunday, so I dug into some research on this. He was playing with the TaylorMade QI. What's the newest one? 35?
35.
Okay, yeah, 35s. So he was playing with the TaylorMade QI 35s and actually switched back to the QI 10s. So clearly there's some sort of a lack of comfort in Rory's golf bag right now, which is kind of concerning in my opinion. Obviously, if you're really comfortable with your clubs, you're probably playing better.
Well, I don't mean to cut you off, but you'd be surprised how often pros change their clubs.
Yeah, I think it's more so than anything else the fact that he's losing off the tee and now he's changing woods while doing so. I think that's kind of a compound in my eyes. It might be me overthinking it.
That's it's you. And the reason I say that, I could go into heavy detail about wedges and balancing and grind and the type of grass you're playing on, the conditions, hard or soft. You take a look at some woods. Sometimes you want more spin and height. Sometimes you want to let it roll. I don't know. I didn't listen to any type of Rory McIlroy interview in terms of why he did that, but there's 100 reasons why someone would change it. So I don't know. He could be overthinking it. He's like, I'm terrified, but I can't see that from the world number 2.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. I mean, he did win here in 2019. He's also missed the cut twice since then. He loses strokes putting here in 11 of his 14 starts, or last 14 starts. I think he's played here like 17 times now. Feels like it. So overall, he's a viable option. I don't think I'm going to be on Rory very much, needless to say. But let me just go through kind of this as an overall stat for this group. When you look at tee to green history here at TPC Sawgrass, in this 10K range, every golfer in this range averages at least 1 strokes gained tee to green per round, here at TPC Sawgrass, except for Xander, who averages 0.69, Cantlay, who averages 0.52, and Colin Morikawa, who averages 0.81. Bear in mind that Ludwig Gobert has only played this course 1 time, so he doesn't fit the minimum threshold rounds. And then Hideki and Fleetwood, who are actually in the next range, double all of their stats at 0.58 and 0.61 as far as tee to green. So that almost tells you that it's not out of the realm of possibility to go, again, Morikawa, Hideki, Fleetwood, or Morikawa, one of the other ones. You could start with 2 of these top 8 or 9 guys and get away with it, needless to say.
Yeah, it's a very concise range and a very terrifying range at the same time, because it's not because of the golfers, it's because of the course.
Yeah, no, I agree. With that, you got a top 3 in this range?
I think if, let's say, all golfers play to their B level, I think it's Ludwig Gobert, Colin Morikawa, and I want to say Rory over Scotty this week, only because even more so than this probably to the 3rd metric, mistakes are going to be exposed. And this is, I know it's hot because Scotty's obviously won back-to-back by 8 shots in combination.
Yeah.
But for $1,300 more than the world number 2, who still doesn't have a great track record here, but has been playing some amazing golf. Those mistakes to me, and I know that it will obviously be different to someone that's a 20 handicap that's watching on the side. Those mistakes are very apparent to me, and I'm actually terrified of Scotty this week.
I'm probably less terrified. I'm going Ludwig. I'm going.
Place.
What's up?
Terrified in probably like 13th place.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's the funny part is we're terrified and they'll finish like 10th. I'm gonna start with Ludwig. I'm gonna maybe still go Scotty at 2, just because again I think there's even his B game gives him like 8th place at this point. And then I'll go Morikawa at 3. So I think I same grouping. I'll just swap Scheffler and Morikawa. So, all right. With that 9K range, Hideki Matsuyama at 9,900 down to Hovland 9,000.
I will start off. On Saturday evening, Liam and I, we hit the range and then we watched some UFC, which was awesome. Shout out to our boy Christian, who was on the pod a couple weeks ago in replace of me, who randomly texted us saying, Russell Henley, top 20 finish at the Players is a sneaky play this week. And Liam and I turned to each other and we go, what a random message. Yeah. And then we really dug into it. Russell Henley, and I talked about it at the beginning of the year and the end of last year. He is not a big name. To me, he is, because I'm a degenerate. But like he's like Patrick Cantlay light. Fairway, green, putt, you move on. It's not really flashy. If you're an old head like me, you love it. Russell Henley's been a dog. Now, in the last 6 appearances at the Players, he's missed 4 cuts. In his career, he's missed it like 6-7 times. So this is a very interesting play because in terms of DFS, you have a mix of people. You have people like me, who basically their entire life revolves around sports and golf and whatnot, that are looking into metrics and eyeball tests and years of visualization and data, all these numbers. And then you have people, I'm just going to use Liam as an example, even though he's not that way. So then you have people like Liam, let's say, who go, oh, Russell Henley's done good 4 weeks in a row. Boom, and they put him in. And I think Russell Henley is going to be extremely owned for the right and wrong reasons. So I am with Christian that the upside for Russell Henley is there, but I am terrified. But who I'm not terrified of in this range, come on, it's Tommy Fleetwood. And Tommy Flo is, over the last 24 calendar, I don't even know why I said that, ranks number 1 in ball striking in the world. Not just the PGA Tour, the world. He has a career finishing placement of 33.9 here, 2 top 10s, a bunch of other top 25s. This guy is a monster. He looks good. He's got his game dialed in, 11th and 5th in his last 2 starts. He finally, bless the Lord, outside of Africa, where he just seems to dominate, finally is making some actual real golf decisions. And it's not just kind of winging it and kind of going for the exciting shot. He's starting to play a little bit more boring. And I love that for him. And I think he finishes on the leaderboard come Sunday at the Players' Championship.
Bear in mind, Tommy Fleetwood plays his best golf, too, when the score is not 25 under par. Like, he does better on these tougher tracks, which, the Players will be a tougher track than I'd say better than a majority of courses that they play throughout the year in terms of toughness. I'm trying to be generous here because I know that some people will have problems with that.
Top 50% at least.
Yeah, that's where my mindset was too.
It depends on the condition of the course. Is it soft or is it hard? That will change my answer.
Well, and a lot of it too. If you think back to this course, I want to say 2022, it was all rain. Like the entire tournament was determined by rain. The 2 different fields played in 2 totally different courses at a certain point. I want to say there was a rainstorm on Thursday that screwed everybody over in the morning, and then everybody that played in the afternoon, it was sunny by then. So there was like a 5 or 6 shot difference on whether you played in one time slot versus another, which would do it. So that makes sense. I'll mention Russell Henley because, again, Jack talked about it. Great win for the kid last week. He gained 6.5 strokes around the green last week, which is the highest of his career by almost a stroke. He also gained 3.5 strokes with the putter, which is one of his top 15 performances of his career. Bear in mind, that's crazy that it's a 3.5 strokes putting and it's a top 15 performance. Tells you he's really not a crazy putter. Combine that with, again, mediocre history here, where Jack mentioned he had the 4 missed cuts in his past 6 starts, where he's lost on approach those 4 times that he missed a cut. It's tougher for me to see the top 20. I get it based on recent form. It might make sense to put him in there. I'm personally avoiding him, but I get it. And I hope for Christian's sake that he ends up hitting top 20 this week. I'll mention Victor Hovland. I know last week I said there was hope for him, but he just lost 6 strokes gained putting last week and lost again around the green. So probably just going to have to sit back and wait on Hovland until he decides to start performing. Last week was kind of a perfect setup where he didn't need great around the green play because the course didn't require it. But this week, I mean, around the green play isn't going to be the most important stat, but it will be significantly more important than last. So I'm fading Victor Hovland. Tommy Fleetwood, Jack talked about it. I have some stats on him. He was great last week, and I see no reason not to go back to him. He gained 2.5 strokes off the tee and 2.5 strokes on approach. He also gained 5.5 strokes tee to green, which marks the 7th straight tournament where he gained at least 4.3 strokes gained tee to green. I'm all over Fleetwood this week, and I like him to honestly probably finish top 20. He's done that in 3 of his last 7 starts here with another T22 in there as well. So he's got great finishes here, and I see no problems with it. I'll mention 2 other guys I like in this range. I think Daniel Berger and Shane Lowry are definitely passing the eye test more than anything else. I'm not 100% sold on them. They both average over 1 strokes gained tee to green in their past 24 rounds, which is what I mentioned for the previous step of the 10K guys. Lowry is 1.64. Berger is 1.23. And they have good finishes here. So I think behind Fleetwood, they're probably my next favorite options.
I think that Shane Lowry has been playing amazing golf on some really caliber and hard courses and very consistent.
Yeah.
I think this is a week that you can trust Shane Lowry. I'm not saying it to the effect of maybe a top 10, but I think top 25 is in the cards for Shane Lowry this week.
Yeah, I would agree. No, yeah,
And
I would definitely agree.
I say Shane Lowry has a career finishing placement of just over 42. That sounds not awesome. In the grand scheme of this course, that's like 7th in the field of players that have played at least 3 times. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, do you have a top 3 in this range then?
I mean, I think Tommy Fleetwood has a genuine chance, and if he can find, there is no player that I want to have their first win in the PGA Tour more than Tommy Fleetwood. I want him. I think Russell Henley has the upside to be number 2. I would probably go Shane Lowry as number 3. I would have said Hideki Matsuyama, but everything I'm hearing from him, his camp, the people in his pro-am, and yes, it's disgusting to say, but I saw an interview with some guy in his pro-am. He was in so much pain in his shoulder. Number 1, he withdrew, but number 2, during the entire event, he just looked pissed. Now, granted, Hideki Matsuyama has 2 straight top 10s in this event, 2 top 6s if we're being honest. So he's caliber. And even so with Hideki, he looked trash and just in pain and mad at the world and still finished 22nd. So if he can, with Hideki, he's hurt so much. Shoulder, though, you have no idea if he pinched something. You have no idea if he just nicked something. It's bothering him. Is it a collar? You have no idea with Hideki because he's always on this freaking injury report. I have no idea how serious it is, and he hasn't said anything. So
I'm not going to say I told the pod last week, but I did comment last week that there was injury concerns over Hideki, and then sure enough, 2 days later, he's got some nagging injury that pulls him out of the Pro-Am. I mean, it's just it happens all the time with Hideki. It makes him extremely difficult to do in terms of pricing. So if you go to him, you'll probably get in a top 15 finish if he plays all 4 rounds. But you just don't know what he's getting. I think Fleetwood has similar upside. And there's less injury concerns when it comes to that. So I get it. For my top 3, give me Fleetwood, give me Lowry, and then give me Berger as my third guy. I think he's been playing in great form recently as well. So
yeah, he is here in a couple of years, so it'll be nice for him to get back into it.
Yeah. In the 8K range, we got Maverick McNeely, 8,900, down to Minwoo Lee at 8,000.
Yeah, first and foremost, Sepp Straka is being heavily overlooked this week. Let me just read his last, let's call it 6 finishes. 5-11, poor 69, 15-7-1. Okay, so he's what?
Oh, yeah. Sorry. I had a stat there. My stat for him was quietly at 5 top 15 finishes in his past 6 starts, and it's because I didn't include the 69th. That's where I was like, wait, what?
He is, in my opinion, still winning golfer of the year. Now, again, we're in freaking March 10th. But he is winning golfer of the year.
Yeah.
Right as of now, if the season ended right now, and you're telling me at 8,600 in an event where he has 2 top 20 performances out of 4 starts, that's just, you have to lock that in. You have to go for it. You have to take the gamble. The other guy I like is Jordan Spieth, and I know it. I get it. I 100% get it. But Jordan Spieth has looked great. And I'm not just saying that. I am a Jordan Spieth guy. I've been a Jordan Spieth guy when he played at Texas. I was a Jordan Spieth guy when he was in high school. I actually met him when I was a kid. Jordan Spieth has 2 top 10s in his last 3 starts. Everybody's overlooking it. Everybody's going, Jordan Spieth does not look like Jordan Spieth of 2017, 2016, 2015. That's true. Jordan Spieth from tee to green over the last, let's call it 3 starts, has looked surreal compared to what he looked like his last 23 starts. And I think that this is a really interesting opportunity where he's fighting for these events, fighting for these points to stay elevated, fighting for courses like this to get ready for the majors and these big events. If, and I mean if, he can get on the green, and he hasn't been putting well, but he's been experimenting with a bunch of different putters from what I'm hearing. If he can have 3 solid rounds of putting, he can finish top 30. That's not saying he's going to win, but top 30 in an event that is so chaotic and so random, and you're telling me Scotty Scheffler's won in back-to-back years, still has a placement, an average finishing placement of almost 40. That's awesome. This is a very different event than compared to like the Mexico Open at Vedanta or Cognizant for Honda.
Yeah.
30th place is awesome this event, and I know it's hard to wrap everybody's head around.
Yeah.
I still know the risk I'm getting into. Let me just preface that.
I was gonna say we'll dig into it for sure. Josef Giuseppe Sepp Straka. Jack highlighted he's got great finishes. He's also gained on approach and strokes gained tee to green in 12 of his last 13 starts. Jack didn't even highlight that he's got a T9 and a T16 here as well in his last 4 starts. I'm all over Sepp. I think at 8,600 he's a wrong price comparatively to the guys above him, at least in this range. Jack highlighted Jordan Spieth. If he's your Superman, then Sawgrass is his kryptonite. He has 10 starts here. He's got 6 missed cuts. His best finish here was a T4 in 2014. Bear in mind that some of our audience was probably prepubescent the last time that he was top 5 here, if that tells you anything. He's got no other finish inside the top 20. He has also lost strokes gained tee to green here in 6 of his 10 starts, and regularly loses around the green here as well. I personally am avoiding him like the plague. If possible, I would like to bet against him this week. But he is Jordan Spieth.
You won.
Well, no, I wanted to face him in a matchup, but I forget who he's facing in a matchup. I think it's like Tom Kim, and I'm like, yeah, no, I don't know if I like either of them. I don't like either of them in a matchup this week. So yeah, I'm avoiding Spieth, but I get it, Jack. And if you like Jordan Spieth, you're gonna recognize the name value. Go to him. I get it. I just don't want.
What about the name value though? For me, it's about what he's done.
I'm saying for other people, but
sure.
Yeah, like I'm thinking, like if you're a casual golfer and you sit down, and you're like, oh, Jordan Spieth, like 8,800, that's not a bad price. Sure, I'll throw him in. But I know for you it's different. Yeah. I'll mention Will Zalatoris. He's in his Scotty Scheffler light era, where he lost 6.5 strokes putting last week at Bay Hill and still finished T22. Most of that was obviously through tee to green play, where he gained nearly 8 strokes. And he's gained in tee to green at nearly every event outside of the Zozo since the Genesis Scottish Open last fall. He's had 1 start as well outside of T41 since St. Jude, which is 11 starts. So if that tells you, he's probably going to lose strokes putting, still finish top 40. And if based on what his odds were a few hours ago, his top 40 odds are plus 120. So not the worst idea of all time to potentially bet that if you're feeling the spice of life. Is he in this range, or am I mixing up my people? I'm mixing up people, am I? Next guy? Yeah, next guy's not in this range. Okay. No, I'm thinking ahead. I was like, where is? But no, he's like high in the next range. Do you have a top 3 in this range or no?
I would say for me, Sepp Straka 1, Jordan Spieth for me is actually 2, and I think Maverick McNeely could be number 3, but I'm not holding my breath on him.
That's fair. In all honesty, I think it's Sepp Straka, 100 miles of shit, and then the rest of this range, if you want my honest opinion. If you want a 2 and a 3, I mean, Zalatoris and Siwoo. Just based on Siwoo's ability to ball strike, but again, his putter's all over the place. But again, I think it's Sepp Straka or nobody else, in my opinion, in reality at the 6K or 8K range. All right, 7K range we go. Corey Connors, 7,900, down to Keith Mitchell, Cashmere Keith, 7K.
Corey frickin' Connors. If you don't have coin on him this week, I'm concerned for you, because not only does he have a really good stretch of performances here, he's 1 missed cut in 5 starts, average finishing placement of 37.4. He looked incredible from tee to green last week. Just couldn't capitalize on those putts. Just continued to leave him 6 inches short, which we've all done before. It's really hard. And I will say at the professional level, it is, if you think it's hard sometimes to get your ball to the hole, or maybe you're hitting it too far and stopping it, it's twice as hard in the PGA Tour, because their greens are just so different than what you and I play on. His last 2 starts are 24-3, and he looked awesome last week. I really, really, really love him. Second on my list is Brian Harman. Brian Harman is the prolific, I'm going to play the most boring, everyone's going to dislike me golf in human history. And he continues to just play well enough to stay relevant. Obviously, if it wasn't for the Open, we wouldn't really be sitting here babbling about Brian Harman. But he plays some really, really, really consistent golf. And I think that really sets him aside and really sets him above a lot of other people. Runner-up here last year, 3rd in 21, 8th in 19. His only missed cut is in 2018. So my realm is, if you can make a cut at $7,500, I'm ecstatic. You're giving me $7,600 for a guy that's played well here historically. I'm ecstatic. But the 2 guys I actually really like, and I'm sorry, and then I'll let myself take a breath. Christian Bezuidenhout. I have been a fan of his for way too long, it feels like. It's kind of sad. 13th in both his last 2 starts here, 41st and 21, averaging finishing placement of 22.3, which is up on top on all the finishes. He has been playing some historically consistent golf, tee to green. I don't think he has the capabilities to come out here and shoot 16 under and win here at the Players. But if he can go out here and shoot 10 under, and comparatively to this field and how chaotic it is, that's a 22nd place. And I'm taking that every single day. And then last but not least, before I pass out, Aaron Rai, who has also been a notoriously consistent golfer. 2 finishes here with an average finishing placement of 27. He has 11 and 4 in his last 2 starts, including starting with a 74, which I thought was going to nick him from this tournament. But he's been playing some really consistent golf otherwise. And if you're talking about an accuracy fest, here's the course for it.
Yeah, I have 3 names I like in this range. Take a wild guess if any of them have been said yet. First one, Corey Connors. Shocker. Yep, Jack talked about it. Great approach play. He plays great here. I'm really not worried. I won't dig into any more details than that. He's a great option, 7,900. He was the one where I was like, oh, is he in the 8K range? Because I just automatically assumed he made more sense than Minwoo Lee, Benny On, J-Day, a lot of those guys. So I like him as a first option. And then I like Aaron Rai and Christian Bezuidenhout, which Jack mentioned both of them. Aaron Rai has been one of the better ball strikers, honestly, on the PGA Tour. He's gained 18 strokes gained tee to green in his past 2 starts, and has gained 10 strokes gained tee to green here at Sawgrass in his 2 starts. He ended both of those weeks with a T19 and a T35 finish. So he ball strikes really well, has great tee to green play, and his putter is his biggest weakness, which can get mitigated here. So I think Aaron Rai is a easy made cut option, especially at 7,100. I think he is a good, honestly, top 40 option if you want to go that route. Christian Sweetenhout, which Jack mentioned earlier, crazy history. He's got 213s and a T41. He's gained 11 strokes gained tee to green here across his 3 starts. He's also gained 10 strokes gained approach on those 3 starts as well. In all honesty, approach is a majority of his tee to green. He actually loses, I think, a third of his stroke off the tee here. He's one of 3 golfers on tour that loses strokes off the tee at this event and has a good enough history to play here consistently. Everybody else is that is this bad of a driver is 5,200 or below. They're some of the lowest price players in this field. Bez has a good enough short game and good enough approach play that he basically does the opposite of what everybody else does. He just wins it with approach and putting, whereas everybody else wins it with driver and approach. So I think Aaron Rai and Bez are also great options. If you want to go to the high 7Ks, go to Corey. Other than that, I'm skipping everything else in this range.
Fair enough.
Cool. JT Poston at 6,900 down to Laurie Cantor, 6,000.
This is a very interesting range for me. And I have absolutely no one I'm willing to stake my reputation on this event. You have a guy let's just take Bo Hostler, for example, that you might think, 2 top 32s in his last 3 starts, 2 other top 15s in his last 6. This guy has missed 5 consecutive cuts here at the Players. His best finish is 46th. This range is so chaotic. Yeah. So chaotic. Justin Rose has one of the best histories here, in Players history. And he's up there. He's missed 2 of his last 3 cuts. This event is so chaotic that guys like this are very, very sporadic. Now, I will say, Ricky Fowler, former champion, has been playing a little better. You could get to him. Lucas Glover, if he can stretch 4 rounds together, you can get to him. I don't really trust him. Kurt Kitayama is really good with the irons, but I just don't love this range. So I'm genuinely avoiding it.
If we're being honest, I like some of the 5K guys more than I like the 6K guys. I think I have more favorites of mine that I like in the 5K than the 6K. I'll mention Laurie Cantor because there's a high likelihood that if you don't follow the European Tour or you're not a Jack level degenerate, you might not know who that is. But he's been playing on the European Tour all year. The reason he's in this tournament, in his last 4 starts, he's gained 39 strokes gained tee to green. And he's got finishes of 3rd, 1st, T35, and 2nd. During that stretch, he has been crushing it with the he actually hasn't been crushing it with the putter either. He's lost a stroke across those 4 starts. He's probably, in my opinion, one of the better options in the 6K range. And it's funny that he's the low end of the 6K range of 6,000. But yeah, I agree. I'm not a fan of a lot of these guys. I mean, Pavon can shoot 12 under or 37 over. Jaeger's wildly inconsistent off the tee, so I'm worried about him getting into hazard trouble. There's too many guys that I think have too many flaws. I mean, Homa might finish bottom 10 if we can bet that as a as a bet for the week.
There's going to be a Homa versus Jack bet here in 2 years straight.
Yeah, exactly. So I think there's just too many questions in the 6K range that basically the 5K guys have the same problems with. So if you're giving me the extra $1,000 to save, I'm going to go to them. Yeah. So I'd go, if you want to try something different, go to Laurie Cantor at 6,000. Otherwise, I'd go to 5K. On to 5K.
Enjoy yourself.
What's up?
Or just pick Ricky so you can vote for somebody and root for a guy.
Yeah, Ricky's acceptable. I would go to him as well. I mean, it's been 10 years since he won here, but yeah, you can still do that. All right, 5K range we go. Jake Knapp, 5,900 down to, oh my God, there's a lot of them. Camilo Villegas, 5,000.
I want to say one thing.
Yep.
Michael Kim really confuses me this week. And eyeball test the last 6 weeks, he's the hottest golfer in the world. He's the hottest golfer in the world over the last 6 weeks. It's just, there's no debate. I can't sit here and say this. His average finishing placement at the Players is 90. And it blows my mind every single time. I'll let you talk on him because I'm sure you're gonna.
Don't worry. Everywhere Michael Kim plays, he has bad finishing position. He's on such a heater right now. Don't even worry about it. Just stick him in a lineup and go.
For Deer Run, but Nikolai Højgaard is so weirdly priced for being a super consistent golfer. It's confusing me. Now he has one finish here where he missed the cut. He lost a ton of strokes just everywhere. His best metric in that event was he lost 0.24 around the green. That was his best metric. Now, that's probably nerves, whatever it was. He was newer on the PGA Tour, but 5,700 for a guy that's worst finish placement on the PGA Tour this year is 36, and he's playing at these big events. You have to take that risk. For me, that is something I have to target. Doug Gim is also in here. He's got a good stretch. And I genuinely, for the life of me, hope Nate Lashley pops his tires on the way to the course and he's not able to make his tee time.
Oh my God. Okay. All right.
I didn't wish harm on the guy. I just wished him to miss his tee time.
Okay. All right. With that, I like both the Højgaard brothers as well. I think they're both viable options in this range. I think if they were 6,500 plus, I would have been like, yeah, that makes sense for the Højgaard brothers as well. So I think as opposed to going to the 7K?
Even more. For Rasmus, yeah. Nikolai, probably 68.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't know if they'd both be 7K, but they could both be high 6K, and I'd feel comfortable going to them. So I think they're both viable option to go to. I hope that everybody else that plays in my specific DraftKings and FanDuels is also not high on Michael Kim like Jack, because I would love to steal all your money when he finishes top 25 this week. His price point is just dumb. You'll see it. In my opinion, I thought there'd be an insane amount of people that would get him into their lineups based on recency bias. I honestly can't blame him. He's gained in every strokes gained category, like every statistical strokes gained category, for 6 straight starts now. He hasn't finished worse than T13 during that stretch. He's also gained more strokes gained total in the past 20 rounds than Scotty Scheffler. Bear in mind, he is half of Scotty Scheffler's price. Also, if you want the notes on that, for strokes gained total, Michael Kim last 20 rounds, 2.11 per round. Scotty Scheffler, 2.09. So it's literally 0.02. Let's not sound like, they're crushing it. Michael Kim, statistically, strokes gained total last 20 rounds, is a better golfer than Scotty. That's insane that he's in the 5K range. I'm going to go to him. I don't care about his finishing position. His finishing position last week at the API average before last week was like 87th as well because he had never made a cut. So I'm not worried. Everywhere you go for Michael Kim, based on how he played in the past, he's going to have bad finishing position. Just throw him in your lineup. You'll be fine. So him and the Højgaard brothers. Go to them. Skip everybody else in the 6K range if you're not going to Laurie Cantor.
5K range, but Jacob Bridgman also, too, has been playing some really, really good golf, really consistent golf. His worst finish in the last 3 weeks is 34th. So if you want to ride a hot hand, I'd go him as well. I mean, 5,300, if he can make the cut, you just double your money.
Yeah, there's some viable names in this range for sure when it comes to things like that. I mean, Chris Ventura had been playing really well, had been making a lot of cuts. He's 5,100. Doesn't have a lot of history here, so there's just not a lot of data. So that could be fun. Fortunately, Jack Sky is not playing at 5,100, so we're not legally obligated to talk to him about him, which is fine. But he's still listed in DraftKings pricing. First name Eldrick. We'll just stick with that, and we'll go on from there. So overall, a lot of.
I want him to ramp up, but historically, this hasn't been his best course, and he's won how many times, but.
Regardless, he's not in this week. So in my opinion, just stick with the Højgaard brothers or Michael Kim in this range, and you'll probably win a lot of money off people. So, all right. Anybody else? We get into lineups.
No, let's get into lineups because this is already a longer episode.
Yeah. Sorry, there's a lot of people. We got a lot of things to go through, so it happens. Jack, what's your DraftKings lineup looking like?
It's looking really good in my opinion. I have Ludwig Gobert at 10,200. I have Justin Thomas at 10,100. Tommy Fleetwood, 9,800. Bez, 7,100. That's ridiculous. Aaron Rice, 7,100. That's ridiculous. And Nikolai Højgaard, 5,700. I mean, you're talking about if my bottom 3 guys make the cut, you're looking at Ludwig, Justin Thomas, and Tommy Fleetwood. At least 2 of those guys I know are probably going to finish top 20. That's money. I might not win the $100 buy-in DFS. I already know that. But if you're giving me double my money, triple my money off this, I love it.
Well, I'm going to be honest. I like your DraftKings lineup. I like mine a little more. I'm gonna keep it a stack with you. I think I have a really good DraftKings lineup. I also start with Ludwig Gobert, 10,200. I got Tommy Fleetwood, 9,800. Shane Lowry, 9,100. Seb Straka at 8,600. Laurie Cantor at 6,000, and Michael Kim at 5,900. You also have, I think, $200 left over, so you could theoretically move Laurie Cantor around, go higher up than Sepp if you want to do that. Pick somebody else other than Shane. You have some flexibility money-wise to move. But you're giving me basically Ludwig, yeah, top 20. Tommy, probably top 20. Lowry, probably top 20. And Seb Straka could easily finish top 20. All I need is made cuts out of Cantor or Kim, and I'm cruising. So, all right, what's your FanDuel looking like?
My FanDuel lineup is very, very similar. So I have Ludwig Gobert top 11,800. I have Justin Thomas once again 11,400. I have Colin Morikawa at 11,100. Tommy Fleetwood at 10,100. I did put Michael Kim in to cover my books just in case he does well. If he doesn't, he's 7,700. I will say I think Michael Kim is going to make the cut. I just don't think he's going to have another 15th place finish. That's just me. Just because this course is so sporadic, anything can happen. And I have Jacob Bridgman at 7,300 because Bez was a little bit more expensive than FanDuel.
That makes sense. Yeah, I was surprised on FanDuel. Yeah, Bez was sneaky expensive. He's 7K on DraftKings. I want to say he was like close to 10K on FanDuel.
8,300.
No, really?
Bez?
Yeah, on FanDuel, I want to say he was super expensive on FanDuel. Because I looked, he was higher expensive than Aaron Rye was, and Aaron Rye is 8,800.
8,300, my friend.
Huh. All right, never mind then. For my FanDuel lineup, I'm going Scotty Scheffler. I'm gonna try it out. We got Scotty Scheffler 13K, Ludwig Gobert 11,800, Tommy Fleetwood 10,700, Aaron Rye 8,800, Michael Kim 7,700, and Laurie Cantor at 7,400. So we'll see. Similar lineups, but Jack, bets, how many we got this week?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Jack's back, ladies and gentlemen. 8 bets. First of all, I literally, and the first bet I have, I'm begging. It literally just says, please, on the note. It's Ludwig Gobert top 30 is minus 170. This course is so sporadic, and he's only missed this in 2 of his last, 13 starts.
Yeah.
Please, can just finish 27th. I don't even care. Just get me something. I do have also Justin Thomas, top 30 at minus 128. Justin Thomas, over the last 10 starts, has only missed this twice, which one was a 36. He's competitive everywhere. And I think if he can get the driver in play, he's one of the best wedge players I've seen in the last 2 decades. So I think he can really stick that and make that putter work its magic. I have Colin Morikawa, top 30 at minus 190. You might be thinking, why aren't you betting top 15 or top 20 and making it a little better odds? I'm a big believer, for anybody that's new and is kind of wondering what's going on, I will take 3/4 of the money and guarantee more spots. I am more than happy to take profit of any kind. Amazing ball striking performance last week. Tommy Fleetwood, top 36 in ties. That's bet 365. Hopefully it's available in your state at minus 120. I have Corey Connors with probably the most ridiculous line of any bet that you and I have. 46th in ties is minus 120. And I would have bet him at top 30, but you're giving me right around even money for that. Russell Henley, top 38 in ties is minus 120. I have Sepp Straka, 47th in ties at minus 120. And Christian Bezuidenhout, which I have that written down as plus 150 in my handwritten notes for top 40, but is minus 120 in the doc. So let me revisit that. Liam stole one of my bets, by the way. So
you put it as a with a question mark on the back end of it. I don't know what you're talking about. I saw it and immediately liked it. I don't know. It's not my fault that you were too hesitant on it.
It's plus 150. I don't know why mine's Bez top 40 is plus 150.
You might have carried that over from the other minus 120 bets that are all in that row and just been in the zone. All right, good 8 bets. For my bets, I have 6 of them. Clearly, Jack likes one of them now because he was going to do it, but he was too hesitant on it. But of my 6, first one is Tommy Fleetwood, top 20 at plus 160. Second one is Will Zalatoris, top 40 at plus 120. I have Christian Bezuidenhout over Eric Van Reen and Aldrich Potgieter at plus 105. Hint, hint, that may have been the one that Jack likes. I have Daniel Berger over Victor Hovland at minus 120. I have Siwoo Kim over Tony Finau at minus 110. And I have Michael Kim to finish top 40 at plus 115. So I agree. Maybe Michael Kim doesn't finish top 15, but I think he can easily finish top 40. So
I think that's pliable. Or plausible. Plausible.
Yeah. I mean, I think I'm giving myself a solid 10 or 15 spot buffer. So, on to your wild card, Jack. What's your wild card looking like?
I have Brian Harmon top 20 at plus 330. This event is so random, and you're giving me a guy that's done it 3 of his last 5 starts here, which it doesn't sound like it's awesome, but if you really look at the stretch of like performance, if everybody had the same visibility that I do into seeing the recent finishing position like the last 8 years,
Yeah.
Brian Harmon's like number 6, and that's mind blowing. He's got an entire career an average finishing placement of 40.9, which is just barely behind Scotty Scheffler's won twice in 4 years. So let that sink in, ladies and gentlemen. And you're giving me, 3.3 to 1 on the odds for getting top 20 in an event that's so random and chaotic. I'm taking it.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. I don't hate that play. Again, especially based on how he did last year with runner-up finish. So my wild card, it's going to be Siwoo Kim over Sung Jae, Tom Kim, Benny An, and KH Lee. In reality, I don't think Tom Kim has a chance this week. I think KH. No, you agree? Okay, yeah. I think KH Lee, even though it's a TPC course, probably does not have a chance this week. I think Benny An is going to be a tough one to beat. So if you're giving me Siwoo over Sung Jae and you're giving me plus 240 as the odds, I'm going to take that as a chance for my wild card this week.
Yeah, and it's going to be really, really sad thinking about a Tom Kim demise because he's 22 as well. So he's got some years on him.
Yeah, he's still a young guy. So on to winners. What do you got this week?
I have Ludwig Gobert at 17 to 1. I'll probably, as more odds shift throughout the week, probably try to find something closer to the 18 or 19 range, but 17 to 1 for a guy. Hold really well. I have Tommy Fleetwood 28 to 1. He's one of the best ball strikers on the PGA Tour and is just due, and he's been on the up and up. And then I have Bezaden Hoot at 100 to 1. This event is so chaotic, and if you're telling me there's a more consistent guy from tee to green, especially in the short game area, which a lot of these scoring numbers come from at Sawgrass, I think 100 to 1 is really reasonable. But most of these guys, it's like Bez, even if you go top 10, is like 16 to 1. So, you can really stretch yourself if you want to, because I'm a baby and I like money.
No, that's fair. For anybody wondering why we're laughing, I live pretty close to a big city.
They heard.
What?
Oh, they heard.
I know. And the train just came by and the bell was ringing as Jack was going through his discussion. I don't know how I'm chopping all this up so that you hear the bell. But that was a funny one that he was going through. So, yeah, Ludwig Gobert, Tommy Fleetwood, and Bez are all very good options. I'm going to keep it a buck. The moment I got into the pod this morning, I was like, oh, I'm going to do Ludwig and Tommy. That makes tons of sense. Turns out I'm doing neither of them because Jack was doing them both anyways. So my winners picks, I've got Scotty Scheffler, who's 5.5 to 1. Again, if there's anywhere that he can survive without the putter, it's here. So I think he's a viable option. I have Shane Lowry at 35 to 1. And then I have Michael Kim at 85 to 1. So do I think Michael Kim's truly going to win? No, but if you sit there and you throw a top 20 bet on him, I think you'd probably get it for what, plus 300 almost, maybe 275. I'm sure something close. So regardless, I think he's a viable option this week.
Yeah.
All right. With that is the players. It's really a pretty fun event, all things considered. A lot of people will probably recognize it from 17, which is fun. I'm sure they'll do that as a featured hole.
You
think Kiz or somebody will be on that this weekend?
Probably that or Smiley Kaufman.
Ooh, Smiley would be a good one too. So regardless, this is probably outside of a major top 3 golf event of the year. Again, I know. I'm trying to think logistically if there's anything else that makes sense.
You watch Valspar or the players? No way. Also, speaking of Valspar, Liam and I are questionable for Valspar because we are both coming in from a golf trip where we'll be in Phoenix, and the average flight land time on Monday morning is like 1:30 a.m., and then we have both our big boy jobs. So we are questionable for Monday, but
I will do it. I just can't promise I'll come in with the biggest smiley face on the planet and not be exhausted. Let's be clear on that one. So if there's a yawn every once in a while on that podcast, then we'll apologize and we'll make it up for you the following week at the Houston Open. So with that, we will leave you to it. Apologies for the long episode, but this is the Players. It's a big tournament, so we want to make sure everybody's well informed. But we'll leave you to it. Happy, safe betting this week. This is a great tournament to bet on, so bet heavy, bet hard, and let's win some money.
Let's do it.
Deuces.